Good morning, you guys. I was just on a few minutes ago. It's Monday morning, and talking about consciousness and God connection and awakening and presence and being here now and all of that. And I kind of got dropped into it a bit, and I forgot that in the mornings I read from this book. And it's crazy, I forgot. So I'm back. I, I think it's the 28th, isn't it? And I'm gonna read. Yes, it is. I'm gonna read. Hi, just hi, you guys. I was just saying that I did my little talk that I do in the morning earlier here a few minutes ago, and I totally forgot to read from the 24-hour day book. And so I actually, after I had my whatever I did, whatever I call it, my talk this morning, I called my daughter, who had been on the talk, and just to see how she was doing and say hello, and she said, "Dad, you didn't read from the book." Funny. No, I didn't. And I forgot. Just like that. Boom, boom. And so I'm back to do that right now. Yes, I am. I'm back to do that. Hey, you guys. So I've been doing this kind of since the 1st of May, a reading from the 24-hour day book every day, and I'm back to do it again right now. And okay, September 28th. So this little book was written in 1954, and by a gentleman who was, I don't actually know the whole story, but he wrote this in 1954. It was published in 54. The 12th Step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, really came into being in 1935. So 19 years before that. And the big book, which is our text in the 12 step world, was published in 1939. So it was only like 14 or 15 years after things really started getting going with the 12 step program and fellowship that this man published this book, and pretty beautiful for the time. And I edited a little bit as I go, because sometimes the stuff is a bit dated and a bit patriarchal, and maybe even sometimes what we would call today a bit racist, but beautiful. So I just have to kind of trim it a bit as we go. Okay, here we go. September 28th. Thought for the day. It says, for the past 2 months, we have been studying passages and steps from the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, why not read the book itself again? It is essential that the AA program become part of us. We must have its essentials at our fingertips. We cannot study the big book too much or too often. Well, I would have to agree with that. And, I've been in recovery for a long time. Like, I was young, 25, and I've done hundreds of big book studies. And every time, I have new awarenesses. It really is a pathway to awakening, to true spiritual oneness. And the promises in the 9th step are exactly that, and nothing short of awakening. So it's available. It's not a little league teaching. It's amazing. So here we go. We must have essentials at our fingertips. We cannot study the big book too much or too often. The more we read it and study it, the better equipped we are to think AA, act AA, and live AA. We cannot know too much about the program. The chances are that we will never know enough, but we can make as much of it as our own as possible. Make much of it our own as possible. How much of the big book have I thoroughly mastered? So, I don't know about mastering. But, I'm forever, I guess, a student. Beautiful. That was the thought for the day. Meditation for the day. It says we need to accept the difficulties and disciplines of life so as to fully share the common life of our fellow man. Try that again. We must, it says, or we need to accept the difficulties and disciplines of life so as to fully share the common life of our fellow man. Many things that we must accept in life are not to be taken so much as being necessary for us personally, as to be experienced in order that we may share in the sufferings and problems of mankind. So basically saying don't take it too seriously. Hey, Emily, Christine, Dylan, thanks for reminding me that I had forgotten to read this. Thanks for coming back. So we're in the thoughts of the day. I don't know if some of you have this book, but it's a beautiful little daily reading. And I get to read it for you, but I'm also reading it for me every day. It's beautiful. Sufferings and problems of mankind. We need sympathy and understanding. Compassion, big word, it's not in this reading, but compassion is something that I've been asking for. We need sympathy and understanding. We must share many of the experiences of life in order to understand and sympathize with others. Unless we have been through the same experiences, we cannot understand another person or his makeup well enough to be able to help him. What's interesting is in the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12th step, it says, having had spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we carry the message to alcoholics and others who are still suffering. And I don't always get what's going on in people's lives, but I do know where to point them towards. And yes, we've had the experience, and we felt the pain, but I think spending too much time there with people is. Let's just recognize that we share that. We have a common foundation from the craziness of the mind, and how it showed up in all of our addictions and our distractions. But where we're going is this oneness. And it talks about it so beautifully in this book and in the big book. Get a copy if you haven't read the big book. And, find a group to study it with, a big book study. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may accept everything that comes my way as a part of life. I pray that I may use it in helping my fellow. Beautiful. So, done reading that. So we have two talks today. And thanks, Emily, for reminding me. I can't believe, just like totally, I do this every day, and I sat down and I was so kind of intent in sharing that, how the distractions of the mind keep us from being present and in the moment, and all these things come up that are so important. Oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And nothing can be more important than this relationship we have with the moment, with God, with the universal intelligence. So That's it. Meditation tonight, 7:30. Join me. Either come to the house. I'd love to have you come. Let me know you're coming, but I'd love to have you come. We're just having a small group here, or see you online at 7:30 on Facebook or YouTube or Zoom. I'm going to put the Zoom link on these two calls today, or these two talks this morning. Okay. Love you guys. Thanks. Talk soon.